You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nub. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down.
Yo, yo, yo. We are back at it again. It is Thursday, May 25th. And just turning up the microphone a little bit here. Need to hear it in my headphones. Just a little bit. That's a little better. So, another day, another show. Here we go. Wanted to do this show in honor of, and we're probably going to do a few series of different fallen icons. One that I admire because, of course, that's the song that I use to start my show. It's called "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised" by the one and only Mr. Gil Scott Heron, who died May 27, the year 2011. A lot of people weren't hip to Gil Scott, but I've been hip to him. I want to say I discovered Bar Marley before I discovered Gil Scott Heron, so I'm pretty sure I was probably about 12, 13, something like that, when they used to play Message in the Bottle all the time on the radio and things of that nature. But the man's 16 albums that he did were just outstanding. I mean, just some incredible pieces. And he's considered the godfather of rap. But he always says he got it from someone and then he passed it on to someone else. So, very humble. A lot of people don't know the story about Gil getting involved in drugs, prison, contracting HIV. Sorry, I had to adjust that. Catching HIV and eventually dying. Sad, but true. Kind of adjusting the microphone here. It's real sensitive. And so I just want to get into a little of that and talk about Gil for a little bit. It was just, like I say, I'm sorry about that. His whole layout of commentary, as I like to call it, was based on a lot of the political scene. He was born here in Chicago, Jamaican father, mother from Jackson, Tennessee. They didn't work out early on, and he wound up back in Tennessee with his his grandmother for a little while, and then he was able to make his way to uh, the Bronx, New York, Chelsea projects, and while in Chelsea, he was able to experience what a lot of people would like to call the Black Arts movement. And in this Black Arts movement, there were all these different poets, and like the last poets. If you're not hip to the last poets, you really need to uh, pick up a YouTube page or something like that and educate yourself on who the last poets were. Oscar Brown, he was a big fan of Langston Hughes, and his mother worked sometimes with the NAACP. So before Gil made it big, he went to the alma mater of Langston Hughes, which was Lincoln University, and he was studying, pursuing a master's in creative writing. While there, he hooked up with a few other people, and they decided to put something together. They had checked out the last poets, the Watts Players, and they were really impressed with the art form and how they related the ills of the ghetto and life in politics through their rap. Now, the Last Poets, one of their most common ones, and you may be familiar with it if you are an NWA fan, because they used it on one of their tracks. And it's the one that says, "Niggas love dying. Die, nigga, die." You know it. So, he checked that out, and he was a writer and everything, and he even wrote a couple of books. And I didn't know anything about that. I just found that out recently. I didn't know he had a couple of novels. One was called The Nigger Factory, which was about it's based on campus life, and it's called about the racial and rebellion life on the campus. The other one was called The Vulture, which talked about the death of a dope dealer in Harlem. So I'm going to have to get both those books just to check it out. Like I say, you learn something every day when you research and look into these things. Like I say, it takes a lot sometimes to do these shows. It's not just a one-day thing where I jump up and then I just do a show. There's a lot of research going into it, so we appreciate the feedback if we can get it. If we can get it, we appreciate it. So on the screen there you see Gil Scott Heron, The Vulture. That's the book I was just talking about. Then through this, what's the name of this company? There was a company called the Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman, and they came across his writings, and then they were like, "Hey, do you have anything else?" And he was like, "Sure, I got a whole bunch." So he was given this opportunity to go ahead and produce his first album, which was called the Talk, or it's called Talk on 125th Street in Lenox, and that's the piece or the album where the revolution will not be televised. It's on. That was brought out in 1970. He was just a young man of 21, and that piece sparked something in a lot of people. It became the narrative of what the civil rights movement had become about. And like here, I got a whole stack of different things. Got McGill Scott. The revolution would not be televised. He's got a ton of different things that you might have heard, you might not heard. I suggest you go out and get it. some of my favorites: Whitey's on the Moon, Pieces of a Man, The Revolution Would Not Be Televised. You know, just so many different pieces. A lot of my other ones are Home Is Where the Hatred Is, Winter in Alaska. Winter in America, Shut 'Em Down, B Movie, Angel Dust is one that a lot of people are familiar with. You know, everybody loves. If you don't love it, you know that piece, the revolution will not be televised, is such a deep commentary of life. I love it. You would not be able to stay home, brother. You would not be able to plug in, turn on, or cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for a beer commercial because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution would not be televised. The revolution would not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution would not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading the charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Mendo Rivers to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. It's deep. It was revolution time. And like I said, before Gil even get out there, we had the last poets. Dick Gregory. These are part of my black room. So when I tell everybody, start yourself a black room, go out here, find this stuff, you know, reacquaint yourself with being black and what your cultural experience is. A lot of times they were talking about trying to stay away from the ills of society that keep us in the position we are in now. He was influenced on a lot of up and coming people. So all the rappers you see today, or even back then when the positive rap came out and you had X-Clan, Public Enemy, you got Most Def, Talib Kweli, and on and on and on, KRS-One. All these people are direct in the line of influence where Gil says he picked up from Langston Hughes, Paul Lawrence Dunbar, you know, Kwame. It was just a lot of stuff going on, and it was a narration of the times. And you gotta learn to dwell back into that. You know, I throw in some Gil Scott. I might be playing Gil Scott all day. A friend of mine recently, and he's in his later 30s, he was not even hip to Gil Scott. I was amazed. I was like, what? You don't know Gil Scott? Oh my God. So he wrote these books. He did these narrations of life in the ghetto. And then those same things that he talked about are the same things that he kind of got caught up in. It's like in the 80s when Ronald Reagan was elected, or Reagan as he calls him. And a lot of the policies that were in the 80s, I remember I was in the 80s. The fake war on drugs, the drugs that we put into the neighborhoods, the offsetting of sentencing, the higher sentencing that Reagan brought in, it was just like a war on poor people, and Gil spoke a lot about that. And soon after, you know, was he blackballed or was he not blackballed? You know, shows started drying up. Different forms of music became more prevalent. You know, disco was still around. It was kind of fading. You had house music coming in. You had rap coming in, and it was more positive in the beginning. But as it went on, you saw more of an influence of the standard that they wanted to set in place as far as the white record companies. So you start seeing the falling off of certain groups and the other ones coming on. But I think when Public Enemy came out, that was just a strong time, and a lot of us younger people at that time were motivated and our eyes were more so open to something different than the shake your booty, dance, dance, dance type of stuff that was out there. And during this time, during the 80s, I mean, I was actually writing stuff before the 80s, but I took it more seriously later on. And I was like, wow, and then I could write stuff. I'm not even going to share my poem. One of my favorite poems that I wrote is They Want Me to Be a Nigger. And I wrote that poem one day because they had me in a bad place. They were really trying to knock me off my square. I'm talking about the white people that I work for. And it was a really intense situation. And I wrote it so fast. I wasn't even looking when I was writing. I was just typing it. I was like, our truth hidden behind stars and bars, land of the free, land not ours. Self-destruction taught by the destructional teacher. We on the field and they in the bleachers. And it just goes on and on, talking about the ills of society. And we're talking about these same ills that Langston Hughes, Du Bois, and all these other people were speaking of. Oscar Brown Jr. It's so many in a line. It's like the Creole of the old African village, the storyteller. And these guys brought it to one place, and then Gil took it to another place. And he said the responsibility wasn't his, but he was able to give it to the next generation. He had a real humorous side. Like if you check out a lot of his stuff, he does a little talking before he gets into it, connecting with the audience. Kind of like Malcolm would connect with the audience. A lot of times you hear Malcolm speak, and it may not be all just one plain level. He'll crack a joke here or there, or he'll do something to connect with the audience. The instrumental side of Coltrane and how, he had you all sucked in with the music. This is the same way Gil's group was able to bring you in even deeper. It's just sad that what happened to him and he spoke honestly about it. And you only can respect the person. He says, it's not my music that caused me to suffer. He said it was all the other dumb shit I did. So when I had to go to jail, I went to jail. He said, but truly, a lot of us are in jail anyway. If you happen to be black and in America, these type of things can happen to you. He had drugs in his pocket. He was sent to jail. He contracted HIV at some point. Was often in and out of hospitals. I think there was a few mental institutions he visited. And, sometimes people wouldn't know where he was for days or months. That's the unfortunate part about a lot of genius. Next week, we're going to talk about Huey P. Newton. He was also another one that great mind, but wound up getting killed in, I believe it was 1989, in a drug deal. So this lets you know this can happen to anyone. None of us are above these addictions, and everybody may have their own addiction. Some people have a porn sex addiction. Some people are addicted to making money. Some people are addicted to drugs. Some people are addicted to drinking. It's these vices in life that you have to be careful of. And he spoke a lot about a lot of these things. When you listen to Pieces of a Man, or you check out Home is Where the Hatred Is, he's detailing his life, his personal experience, the drugs. Everybody remembered the Angel Dust song. because it was so prevalent in the neighborhoods at that time. He was grooving. And that's when he could have sworn the room was moving. But that was all in his mind. He was selling. He never really seemed to notice his vision failing. 'Cause that was part of the high. Sweat was pouring. He couldn't take it. The room was exploding. He might not make it. Angel dust. He's giving you an experience into the drug life, the experience where he said he would talk to the street people. And some of these people used to be doctors, and they might have lost a patient, or airline pilots, or nurses. I've personally known people that flew jets, but the alcohol was the only thing that they're holding on to now. They have some good days, just like Gil would say. He had some good days where he was straight. You know, he was in love with being creative. But when you have an addiction, that's going to take away from your creativity. I think his last album came out in about, I want to say 2004 or something. I think something new was, but I think they're just re-releasing an old album. One of the last things that he did, and it's just sad, you know, that we had so many. Whitney, Michael, the latest Prince. Now, whether it's prescription drugs or some other type of drug, you're still doing drugs, and these people still died from their addictions. Some people say it was the addiction to fame that caused them to be a part of these other addictions. You know, it could be. Maybe not. We have our call-in number. It's 1-872-267-2552. We've got a few minutes. I don't know if anyone wants to call in and talk about their favorite Gil Scott song or add any type of comment. We're trying to get more people involved in the show, trying to make it a more interactive type of thing, an experience. Look, I'm not the master or expert in any of these fields. Everything I say here is of my personal experience. I'm a Gil Scott Heron fan. Have been for years. And when I thought of a song for my show, there was nothing else to talk about. The Revolution Will Not Be Televised is my favorite song. No matter what this man did, if you check out his videos on YouTube or something else, you can go out and you can find a lot of information about Gil Scott Heron. It's no such thing that you can't do it. You can't find it because it's out there and because it exists. You know, so all you got to do is go out there and see it. This was a site that I'm showing on the screen now. It was just an introduction to Gil Scott Heron in 10 songs. And basically they were just giving you a description, letting you see the video. Angel Dust. That's on the 1987 album. The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. All these are great songs. Who Will Pay Reparations on My Soul. Another classic cut. You know, H2O Gate Blues. all this. The Winter in America. Come on, man. The Bottle. Home is where the hatred is. You got to sit down, get you a glass of wine, a beer, whatever you like to drink, or water if that's what you do. And you got to go through and you got to listen to each one of these. New York is killing me. Come on, come on, come on. This guy was a literary genius. He was out around the same time, like we love Donald Goins and the novels and the way he brought life back. You know, how he talked about the drug life and the hustler life. It was incredible. This We Almost Lost Detroit. Detroit is off the Reflections album. I'm probably gonna sit around later tonight and just, you know, indulge myself in a whole bunch of stuff. Cause like I say, you get involved in some Gil Scott and you get caught up. You get caught up. So we got a few minutes here. If nobody's gonna call in, we're gonna keep it moving because I do have a piece that I want to share with everybody to end the show, but still stay within the guidelines of what we're trying to do. I know the game's on tonight. The game started at 7:30. The show started at 7:30. So, you know, it is what it is. Sorry that we couldn't fit everybody in. But as always, in the ending, we say love, peace, soul. Enjoy your evening.
Not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nub. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother.
Scott Heron was 21 when he released "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised," a phrase which has since entered the language. His uncompromising message has not been without its cost over the years. Has it maybe hampered your career, do you think?
It's possible. This may do my career a great deal of damage.
May not do me a lot good either.
But at least they didn't see you.
Not yet. But you've never found yourself or heard of yourself being put on a blacklist, for instance, or some record executive saying,
Nobody ever shows you the blacklist.
No, but I mean, you might have heard about it.
Yeah, that guy, that black guy, he's on our list. Heard of that. Yeah, we were not able to play here anywhere that we wanted to, or our records were taken off the shelves for quite a while. But since I had most of them, I wasn't trying to buy them anyway. No, let me be serious. Yeah, we've had some unhappy moments for what we chose to say, but you see, the Bill of Rights and the things that you pay for with your taxes constantly come up to be things that you have to challenge to make sure that they're still there. And if the right of free speech is truly what it's supposed to be, then anything you say is all right.
Gil Scott Heron's music has been unusually far-sighted, and his songs about substance abuse have turned out to be horribly prescient of his own terrible decline.
See that black boy over there running scared. His old man in the bottom. Well, now, he done quit his 9 to 5. He took full time. Now he's hanging in the bottom.
His song about alcoholism was based on meeting people at his local liquor store who'd fallen on hard times.
And I got so curious, I had to go out there and sit down and talk to them. An exposition who had been dunked because he was caught performing abortions.
Helping young girls along.
A school teacher who had somehow juggled her grades to get somebody else promoted that shouldn't have been. An air traffic controller who had made a mistake while he was on duty and run this flight into a mountain. He had 2 Navy jets on his screen and gave the wrong instructions to one of them Never got over it. Left his office that day and never went back. These were not people whose ambition had been to be an alcoholic. They could have gotten into that career much earlier.
See that black boy over there running scared. His old man got a problem. Who's this dude?
But there are different kinds of folks out there who get lost that way, and we shouldn't be so judgmental about it.
And you were one of those people, I guess. I mean, you've had your own well-documented problems.
Yeah, I got caught with $20 worth of stuff and did a year and a half. I don't think that turned me into Pablo Escobar.
Did that period affect your music, do you think, the way you saw life?
No, I'm saying that I still had some of the same songs that people wanted to do. People didn't ask me, well, why don't you play us something from the period when you were in jail? Well, I didn't have a piano. so I didn't write anything. I didn't write any music then. I wrote some poems and some different things because that's what I do. But you're not always on your way to the studio or on your way home from it.
I understand that. So anyone who thinks that you had a serious problem and you were in denial about it has got it wrong.
Well, if I was in denial about it, I woke up every day in jail. I couldn't deny where I was. You might deny something when you're on the street, not in jail. I don't have a problem. But I'm saying, when you wake up and you're in the joint, not only do you have a problem with admitting that you have a problem.